Good morning, and welcome to reInvent 2025. I'm Charlie Cartwright, and I have the pleasure of building AI applications that change the way people work, helping them make faster and better decisions. And that's what we're going to talk about today with Amazon Quick Suite. I'll be joined by Michael, and he's going to share some customer success stories using Amazon Quick Suite today. And then Nitin will jump on stage and talk to us about 3M's AI journey and how they're using Amazon Quick Suite to support in the AI transformation. As you can see, we have a packed agenda. I'm going to get right into it. Okay, so we're all here because we understand AI is going to fundamentally change the way we work. And we've all had those wow and delight moments in consumer AI tools where they have taken the world by storm over the last few years. And it's been remarkable to have access to so much information, consolidated, and in a seemingly perfect format for you to digest and consume. You know, whether you're trying to figure out the next refrigerator to buy. These AI tools have been impressive in our personal lives. I use several of them frequently, and I cannot get enough of the benefit and the value. But I want that same magic in the workplace. And if your experience is anything like mine, the AI tools that I've previously had access to fall well short of that. They tend to offer point-in-time solutions. And they're very good at helping me maybe transform that email or do something in a specific ecosystem. But that's not the way we work. We work across a bunch of different applications and documents. And the AI tools that we have today fall well short, and it tends to be just one more application that we have to juggle. And that's why we built Amazon Quick Suite. Amazon Quick Suite is an agentic AI experience that's going to reimagine the way people work. So let's take a step back and talk a little bit about what happens today. And we've observed business users, knowledge workers, and the way they, even to do simple tasks, they spend so much time just collecting information. If you think about this journey to act on a decision, if it's, just assume it's like this, most of that time, hours and hours are spent just gathering information. And there's several reasons for that. That information lives and exists across so many different resources that are siloed, whether it's documents, data, websites. And so much of our time is spent collecting information, and we spend very little time in the differentiated capacity on those dimensions where we can really make a difference. And this is unfortunate. It's unfortunate for us as employees, and it's unfortunate for organizations because we have lengthy, slow, and suboptimal decision-making process as a result. I mean, think how hard it is to have complete information to make a decision and how long that would take you. And so what we often have to do is stop that part short so we can get to act and analyze on the information and then make a decision. And that's something with Amazon Quick Suite that we've addressed. So Amazon Quick Suite delivers on that promise of delight. And we do this with a single, unified experience. So at the foundation of Amazon Quick Suite, we connect to all your data, your documents, and all the applications that you use on a daily basis. And we do that in one unified experience. So no more do users have to juggle across 10, 12, 15 applications to gather the information and make a decision about a task. And this is not just another AI tool. It's a fundamentally different approach. You can think about Amazon Quick as having these agentic teammates always at your side that have information that you need to everything that matters most. So you can think about it like an insights agent, a data analyst, a PhD level researcher, and an automation expert that are with you and have all the context and information that matters most for how you do work. Now, at the heart of this, and for these agents to do interesting things and to really bring that context and bring that magic to the workplace, we need to be connected to data warehouses and data lakes like Redshift and Snowflake document repositories like Google Drive and OneDrive, and applications that folks use on a daily basis like Asana, ServiceNow, Jira, and Salesforce. Quick has over 50 built-in applications and access to over 1,000 through partners. And now you can see this information ecosystem that's building and that prevents and creates scenarios where users no longer have to juggle across all these applications to get the information. But it's this context that empowers humans to make faster and better decisions, but it's the same context that agents require that helps them go far beyond model knowledge and provide real utility to the things that you do on a daily basis. Now, let's go in a little bit deeper and show you how teams are actually using these agentic capabilities. So I'll start with Quick's Insight Assistant. The interesting thing about this is Quick's Insight Assistant is able to reason across all of these resources. Remember, across your data, your dashboards, your documents, your applications, and various websites. And it's able to identify the relevant information and passages that you need most based on the query, based on the question that you have. If we take an example, say you're a product leader, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what are the product feature gaps that we have with product X? Typically what you might do today is you might look at various business dashboards that you have and look at adoption, and you might look at usage and user feedback, qualitative, quantitative. You may have product feature requests coming in from your CRM from the field. And then you couple that with web search, where you go canvas the internet and look at various competitors and the features that they have and try to understand, is this an impressive demo or is this a real feature that users are excited about? With Quick Suite, that changes. I have to ask a simple question in natural language. Help me understand our product feature gaps of product X. And it'll pull those relevant resources, that information across your data, your documents. Consider my roadmap in doing so, because there's several of these things that we may be addressing in the near future. And something that would take you hours before, you can do in seconds with Quick Suite. Now think about a couple slides ago when we were talking about folks juggling all those applications, trying to connect information from all those resources, right? And so much of their time is spent just in information collection. Now with Quick Suite, folks can operate at the speed of thought. And we're basically flipping this on its head, right? And so now instead of spending so much time gathering information, right, from thought, gathering so much information, to then being able to analyze that information and make a decision, now when you have a thought or an idea, you can use Amazon Quick Suite and skip that information collection phase and get right into insights and be able to take action. And then, of course, automate some of those actions that we'll get into a little bit later. Another agentic capability, this one is my favorite, and that is the ability to chat with your data. Within QuickSight, you can build dashboards. And it's great to have the ability to be able to chat with those dashboards or ask a question about your business and from information to be able to pull from those dashboards and use that in a response with context about your strategic documents, your roadmaps, various things about the information that you utilize on a daily and weekly basis. But what's more interesting about this is a lot of times things change, and the information that you need today may not be readily present on that dashboard. This tends to be the case with me, and when we were launching Amazon Quick Suite, this was absolutely the case. There were information that we wanted to see, like certain segments, cohorts, personas. We wanted to see the data split differently, and it wasn't readily available. And to be able to ask questions about your data and go beyond what's visible to the underlying data set, to query that and get novel insights, that's the power of Amazon Quick Suite. And previously, think about that for a second. If you were to have information, you're trying to peel the onion a little bit and go beyond what's visible, you would write SQL yourself, right? Kind of familiarize yourself with the columns, the fields. Okay, what does this mean? Probably consult with somebody. Do I have this right? Validate it. Or you would call a business intelligence engineer, right? And that's typically what I was doing. I would walk down the hall. Hey, this is great. Can we see this split this way? And now with Quick Suite, you're able to generate the insight, that information, and peel that onion back and see it in a contextually rich way that is not just data, but it has the information in context that's meaningful and valuable to the way that you see your business. And Quick is learning over time. So as you continue to use Quick, this context is building. And again, that's what's empowering these agents to act on your behalf. So again, like sticking with that theme, you're seeing the speed going from thought to action, being able to operate at the speed of thought with Amazon Quick Suite. Another agentic teammate, like some of the examples I described are great, but sometimes businesses have like very strategic questions that they may need to answer. Like a firm may be considering an acquisition target, and that requires like a different level of depth and reasoning, right? Or if you're trying to look at a comprehensive competitive landscape and evaluate that numerous dimensions, numerous competitors. And for that, Amazon Quick has a research agent. And so if we take the competitive landscape example, in natural language, let me get that going. In natural language, you can ask a question. Help me understand the competitive landscape for enterprise agentic AI applications across these 6 dimensions and include these competitors. And if I'm missing any dimensions, please add those. And if I'm missing any relevant competitors, please add those into the consideration set. And what Quick Research will do is it'll generate an outline for you in seconds. You can look at that outline in natural language, you can adjust things, you can add things, and then you hit run. And then 25 minutes later, you'll receive a notification. And in that notification, your research report will be done. This will be a comprehensive competitive landscape analysis, which has evaluated all those competitors across all of those dimensions. One of the things I really like about this, like, yes, it's full with citations, so you can see where statements are made, where conclusions were made. You can see the source of that information. But you can take and highlight specific sections of that document, specific words, specific statistics, and you can comment throughout the document. And then you can rerun the research. And it doesn't just take the context. The agent doesn't just take the context that it had in the initial run. It'll look at your comments, it'll look at your questions, and then figure out, are there different or additional information and context that I need to bring in to better support the user's request? And then, now that you have this research report, that is available context into Quick Suite. So the next time I ask that first question, hey, help me identify some of our product gaps, some of our product feature gaps, now this is living context that can be deposited into Quick. And so you're continuing to build that context engine like a flywheel. The fourth agentic capability that I'll talk about today is automation. Within Quick Suite, folks are able to automate workflows on a spectrum. So you can think of like more routine workflows that folks maybe do on a daily and weekly basis, but then also extremely complex workflows, like robotic process automation that tend to span tens or hundreds of steps, involving many internal systems and external systems. And with Quick, you're able to automate these workflows. And so like an example of that might be, let's just say that you receive a lot of chat communication, a lot of email communication, and in the morning, you simply want to understand the threads that are open, the threads that don't have closure to them, or where there's action items outstanding. So you can create a workflow, which is connected to your email application, which is connected to your chat applications, that will go get that information and create for you a list of things that are open, where it stands, and who has the next action for that. And then you can set up instructions as part of that workflow based on what the open items are to Slack message or email folks on your team to follow up and address some of those things. And if it's something you do on a regular basis, you can schedule it. So you can do this every morning at 7:45 a.m. Or if you have teams that work in different parts of the country and you're trying to catch up quickly while you were asleep and there were a lot of things happening on that side of the business. One of my favorite examples, and this is one of our partner teams, they used flows within Quick, which is one of the automation capabilities, to basically automate their weekly business review. And so this is pulling information internally using Adobe Analytics and various other dashboards in QuickSight, in addition to marketing launch events and activities and campaign performance. And the team reports that they've been able to reduce the effort that they put in to creating and maintaining that weekly business review end-to-end by 90%. And so what are they doing now? The team are spending more time focused on the differentiation, the things that matter most. And they're no longer just collecting information and moving bits from one application to another application. And then for these more complex enterprise automation use cases, we have a capability called Automate. And in Automate, you can use natural language to build out a workflow. And it'll spin up agents for those workflow steps that are non-deterministic, that require agentic capabilities. And you can also upload a process document and create an extensive workflow. And then it also comes with a build, test, and deploy environment. The thing that's most impressive about this is, as you're building out these enterprise automation workflows, they're off nominal situations where maybe you need a human in the loop to help disambiguate something. Or you want to set a human as the approver if a policy reaches over 10,000 in premium or something like that. You can set those criteria and have a human be in the loop to set that approval. And the rest of the workflow can continue going. Go. All right. So, of course, as a product leader in the Amazon Quick Suite team, I would love it if everyone started, worked through their day, and ended their day in Amazon Quick Suite, which to me is this amazing unified agentic experience which brings all of your data, documents, applications, and web search into one place. But I understand that's not reality. And folks work in various applications. And so that's why we make Quick Suite available where you work and help accelerate and improve the productivity in the applications that you work in. So whether it's popular chat applications, email applications, Microsoft Word, Quick is available working alongside of you in those applications, bringing that same context into those applications so that you're able to ask questions, generate insights, information, and accelerate your work. Quick also has a browser extension. And that browser extension travels with you across all the sites that you visit internally and externally. And it's able to ingest that information and, again, couple that with all the information, all the context that Quick has. So not only can you ask information about what's in front of you, but you can get additional insights by bringing in that context that Quick has access to. And Nitin with 3M will go into more detail on how the 3M team is using Quick's browser extension. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the future. The reality is I have no idea what is to come, and that's the beauty of AI. But one theme of everything I discussed today, it all started the human was the catalyst, right? The user. It's me, it's you going in and putting in a question, entering a prompt, getting a response back. Yeah, we've significantly shortened the time it takes to gather that information, and you can automate those tasks through integrations of all these applications. But what we're going to see when you bring together AI and context is real autonomy and automation. So these agents are capable of acting with true agency. And with Quick Suite, we'll be able to enable them to do that. So folks can work in concert with real agentic teammates that have goals and can act with autonomy and complete tasks independent of me putting out a request or asking for something to be done. And we expect Productivity will be measured in the future how well one can orchestrate across a team of humans and agents. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael to talk through customer success stories. Michael?
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you very much. Great job. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Michael Armentano. Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate your presence. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without you, of course. I am based in Singapore. I look after our go-to-market and business development capability for QuickSuite, covering APJ and China. So it's a big territory, and there is a lot of air miles involved, but I'm happy to be here today in Las Vegas to talk to you about some of our customer case studies. And of course, we have the distinct honor of having one of our customers with us, Nitin from 3M, who's going to give you a little bit of detail. So we have a couple of the customers highlighted here, as you can see. There are some things I want to say before we talk about the actual customer use cases. Many of you have probably heard, as I have, a lot of chatter in the press about AI bubble and AI replacing humans and all these kinds of things. So I don't know what that end state is going to look like. But what I like to do is, when I start these kinds of talks, anchor to a statement which has been made very many times by very many people. In this case, I'm going to quote Dr. Lakhani from Harvard Business School, who said, "AI is not going to replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI." So the reason why I like to talk about that, especially when it comes to customer case studies, is a lot of people are talking about whether or not AI projects are successful, whether or not the money spent was worth it, and whether or not we can measure outcomes. The 4 customers that I'm going to talk to you about, and of course our 5th customer, 3M, will tell you about measurable outcomes of these projects using technology like QuickSuite to achieve these outcomes. But what are the most important outcomes? The most important outcomes, in my mind, boil down to 2 KPIs. KPI number 1 is, how do we make people more efficient? So in the spirit of becoming humans with AI, how do we make people more efficient so that they are those humans with AI and therefore will outperform humans without AI? Number 2, how do we cast a wider net so that more people can become humans with AI and, of course, also be more efficient, but more people get insights and the ability to basically just ask questions and get answers of their data. So at the end of the day, everything that we're doing anchors back to those 2 key performance metrics. We want to make people more efficient, whether you're a data engineer, whether you're a business analyst, whether you're a data analyst, whether your job is looking at dashboards, whether your job is cobbling together data into an Excel spreadsheet so you can answer an executive's question. All of those things, we want to make you more efficient at doing that, and we want to cast a wider net so more people are able to do that. That's going to be the key theme of these customer case studies. So we currently have, because of the fact that many of you have probably heard of Amazon QuickSight, this became part of QuickSuite. So QuickSight is included in QuickSuite, and we currently have over 100,000 customers worldwide. I have been fortunate enough to be able to talk to many of them in Asia, and you can see some of our logos here on this slide. So we have them worldwide, of course, Asia Pacific, Japan, China, of course, all over North America, South America, and EMEA as well. So this first case study is actually really interesting, I think. So many of you may not have heard of this company called Propulse Lab, but basically this is a company that's based in Switzerland. And Switzerland's not really known for being a hotbed of innovation. Some might actually say it's a conservative country, right? For example, the banking system is well known for not being extremely innovative, but very conservative. However, what they're doing here is actually quite amazing. So basically what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we recognize that there's going to be tons and tons of AI startups. And those startups are going to need operations. They're going to need legal. They're going to need finance. They're going to need HR. And so what we're going to do is basically provide those as a service. So just like AWS provides our customers infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and these other things, Propulse is basically saying, hey, we're going to provide operations as a service. So clearly, the more efficient they can be, the better it is for them. The more, basically, their bottom line grows by how efficient they can be. They're using QuickSuite, as you can see here, to basically process over 1,600 monthly tickets with an 80% reduction in average handle time, saving over 24,000 agent hours annually. So this goes back exactly to the agent scenario that Charlie talked about. They basically have agents working for them, which are, of course, AI agents, enabling them to save up to 24,000 hours annually, and, of course, pass that savings on to their customer, and enable this new generation of startups to not have to invest in HR teams, finance teams, et cetera, et cetera. So very, very cool use case. The second one here is Principal Financial Group. So probably not many of you heard of Propulse, just because of the fact that they're based in Switzerland and they're very much kind of focused on the startup industry. But I would bet that all of you have heard of Principal Financial Group, right? Massive financial group with a major presence worldwide. There are a couple of things that they're doing here that are actually very interesting. The first is, clearly, if you're a financial group, you have a lot of data analysts and a lot of market analysts, right? And to Charlie's point earlier, if you can have an agentic data analyst or an agentic researcher for you, you can use that to become a human with AI and save a lot of time. And that's exactly what they're doing. Basically, for all kinds of complex research projects that they're taking on, whether it's consumer-facing research, whether it's analysts making recommendations on investment, retirement investment options, or whether it's research on internal products that they will then sell to their customers. They're using QuickSuite's agentic research capability, this research agent that Charlie talked about, to greatly reduce the amount of time and effort it takes to do research. If you think about how you do research, it's not easy, right? You have to gather a lot of data, right? You have to figure out what are the sources that you trust. You have to create citations. You have to put that in some format, right? So that then you have to figure out, who's my audience? Is it an executive? Maybe I need to be very succinct if it's an executive. Is it perhaps someone who wants 60-page and wants to read a whole syllabus? You have to do all that work. What we're trying to do is say, and what Principal is trying to do is say, hey, you're still going to be a data analyst, you're still going to be a research analyst, but you're going to have this agent that works for you and does some of the lower value work so you can focus on the higher value work, thereby becoming a human with AI. The other thing that they're doing here, which is really interesting, and I think Charlie really mentioned it already in the automate capability within QuickSuite, but that is that they are integrating via MCP. They're creating multi-agentic workflows, okay? So the idea is not only do they have an agent that goes off and does research for them and comes back, but they're also able to make their core business processes more efficient by building out multi-agentic systems. And they do that with QAutomate and the ability to integrate through MCP to other agents, to other pieces of software that do tasks, right? So really what we're seeing here is a movement from a single agentic world where customers are using one agent for one task, another agent for another task, to a multi-agentic world where we have complex workflows with agents talking to one another, replacing entire business processes. And that's done through QAutomate within QuickSuite. Third one, Jabil. Many of you may not have heard of Jabil. It's a massive American company. I've been to their headquarters actually many times in a previous life in Tampa or St. Petersburg. And essentially what they do is they manufacture much of the equipment that is needed for transistor manufacturing companies. So they're also able to use QAutomate to achieve a very specific purpose, and that is to optimize the RFQ process, request for quote, right? So they have many, many suppliers. They have a very, very complex supply chain, and they have tons of quotations coming in and requests for quotations. And they're always looking to, of course, optimize that in some way. So what they're able to do is use QAutomate and essentially automate most of the most important, the easiest processes and leave the most important for actual humans. You heard Charlie mention that. That's human in the loop. So with QAutomate, what they can do is they can kind of automate through agentic AI some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the low-value workload, and then have a step in that workflow that says, hey, for this important decision that needs to be taken, we're going to need a human in the loop, right? And doing that, they're able to reduce scrap by about 10%. So that's actual material scrap, saving about $400,000 every year. The other thing that they're doing here, which is really interesting, is they use QuickSight for dashboards. Many of you have probably used QuickSight. All of you have probably used dashboards. What we see very much as the future of dashboards is, the future is dark for dashboards, right? We have dashboards. We know people will use dashboards. But a dashboard was one dashboard built for many people. So maybe I create a dashboard for all of you. But each one of you has a different thing that you want to see on that dashboard. So I have to anticipate as a builder. I have to figure out, hey, what does this person want to see? What does that person want to see? You even heard Charlie say that when he needs to ask a question about a dashboard, he goes down the hall and talks to one of his colleagues and says, hey, can you help me out with this? What we want to do is flip the script entirely. We want to say, hey, instead of a dashboard-driven approach, we want a language-driven approach. We want an AI-driven approach. What that means is you come into the office, instead of looking at a dashboard, you just ask the question that you want to ask. We call that natural language processing or natural language query. We have that infused into Quick Suite in many different ways. Number one is just straight in dashboards. So you can just ask a question about your data. You can say, how many products did I sell last year? What's the forecast for sales next year? Why did sales drop in February 2024? And get answers. You also saw Charlie show the universal chat, or My Assistant, which allows you to do similar kinds of questions and answers of all your data. Not just BI data, but all your data. Your structured data, your semi-structured data, your images, your unstructured data, your Slack data, whatever you might want, okay? Jabil is also doing that. They're creating a world where their analysts come into the office, they don't look at a dashboard, they look at a search bar, and they ask a question. What happens is that each person is able to ask exactly what they want, instead of relying on a dashboard that was built for many people. Much more efficient and much more interesting. All right, so the last case study I have before I bring Nitin on stage is called Vertiv. Again, this is an extremely important company. Before I started working with them, I didn't really even understand or appreciate how important they are. But basically, what they do, we are actually a huge customer of theirs. What they do is essentially provide the gear that we need in data centers to manage cooling and other things. And so one of their main innovations is they have technology which has allowed them to go from, or us even to go from, air cooling data centers and chips to liquid cooling data centers and chips. Right? So obviously, when you have liquid and electronics together, it's not really a natural fit. So you have to figure out how to manage that, and they've been able to do that. So they have some very interesting technology about how to manage heat within a data center. One of their biggest customers is also NVIDIA. Of course, NVIDIA, manufacturing GPUs, generating tons of heat, and it needs to be managed. Right? There's more heat than ever in these data centers because of GPUs. And they have this technology that allows them to manage that extremely efficiently. So they're also using Quick Suite. Many different capabilities of Quick Suite. They're using the conversational analytics that we talked about before. They're using Q-Automate to go through some of their quality control checks, to automate some of the easier steps for their quality control checks, and also generating documentation for some of these new products that they bring out within the liquid cooling sphere. All right, and you can see the quote here from the VP of Data and Analytics. They're looking at scaling out users by 25% more in 2026. Right? So they're going from their current footprint to plus 25% in 2026, and we hope that they will continue to grow and use Quick Suite. All right, so with that, I would like to introduce Nitin, who is the VP of Data and Analytics for 3M. It's a distinct honor for me to be able to do that. We thank you very much, Nitin, for that, and hope you enjoy the rest of reInvent. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael and Charlie. I mean, great introduction to the product. And what I'm hoping to do a little bit over here is to kind of share some context on, kind of what goes behind implementing, Quick Suite and getting value out of it, right? So let's maybe jump in quickly. Let me give you a little bit of context to 3M, because this is important in highlighting Quick as a solution of choice for us in driving, AI and automation across the company. We always say at 3M that you're about 10 feet away from a 3M product, no matter where you are in the world. Whether you're in a car, whether you're using your cell phone, whether you're putting a diaper on a child, whether you're on the moon, doesn't matter. You're about 10 feet away from a 3M product. And we do that across our safety and industrial business, our transportation and electronics business, and the consumer business, which probably many are familiar with Scotch-Brite and Post-it and so on. But more importantly, it's across a scale of 63,000 people. And many of these are some of the smartest individuals on the planet. Our average R&D researcher is an MIT PhD, right? Aside from that, it's across proprietary data stretching across more than 135,000 patents. So it makes for a very interesting and complex data situation. And of course, scale. We operate across more than 110 manufacturing sites spread globally. So data and AI at 3M is complicated, right? And that's one of the reasons why when we focus on driving data and AI strategy at 3M, we focus more on a top-down approach of picking strategic objectives we want to go after, and then starting to figure out how we leverage data and AI to drive a business outcome, right? So one of the programs that we've talked about quite a bit has been 3M Excellence. And 3M Excellence is about sales and marketing excellence that we wanted to drive. And this is across the spectrum of our customer lifecycle, from acquisition to growth to retention. And we'd identified retention as a clear opportunity for us, and we talked about that in our Q1 investor calls when we said we're going to start using AI and ML to drive insights which allow us to help work with our customers better. But over the course of that implementation from Q1 to Q4, we started to realize that just the insight alone is not enough. We have to get to behavioral interventions that actually help our sales teams work with our customers better. And that's why as we started to get to Q4, we started to talk about our focus on the coaching conversations, the one-on-one conversations that our sales managers are having with sales teams. So as we put together the strategy, we had to work across 1,700 sales reps, across more than 100,000 one-on-one conversations that the sales team was driving over a year. And we wanted to drive better insights into these conversations. So the idea of leveraging the insights from the AI ML model, creating insights for coaching with generative AI, achieving better planning with generative BI or generative insights, and then finally leveraging agentic AI to drive actions. So that was essentially the challenge that we were working through. Now, as we work through these challenges, and this is hopefully something that you can take back to your own workplace as you think about how you drive AI strategy, right? Whenever we look at a business process, the first part of what we do from a product management perspective is to lay out the business process and start to look at all the opportunities that can come out of that business process, right? So usually it's not a bottom-up approach where we identify a use case and go right after it with an experiment. Rather, we look at the entire process, and then we look at AI as adding value in three ways. First, are there workflows that we can automate? Are there insights that we can generate? And is there knowledge that we can aggregate? So as we analyzed the sales process, what we started to realize was the benchmark about sales teams were true. Our sales teams were spending an inordinate amount of time trying to bring together data from different sources and use that effectively, right? So we started to focus our attention on that area, and we started to look at solutions. And that was when we got in touch with the AWS team, and we had the joy of being an early partner on the Quick program. So as we started looking at the Quick program, we wanted to leverage several of the key features of the Quick suite, right? The first one, of course, was we want to leverage quick actions because we had to bring together data and information from multiple sources. But the second part of it was we'd already created many chatbots, prior to this. But what that resulted was a fragmented experience because we were having, the sales team having to go to different applications and use different tools. And so what made the solution so valuable for us was the browser plugin. Because now we had one unified experience where we could bring actions together, but that actions could also change according to the context of what the user was using, whether they were looking at a CRM system, whether they were looking at product data on a website. They could bring all of these insights together into a coherent experience. So as we started looking at what we needed to do with our sales teams, we started to realize that we had to push the boundaries of how we were looking at AI, and we were able to do that quite a bit with Quick Suite. Because when we started to think about a comprehensive way in which we could actually create these behavioral interventions that allowed our sales team to leverage these insights effectively, First part was we had to look at personas. So we had the sales team member, and then we had the leader. The sales team member needed to plan and ensure that they understood how effective their plan was. They needed to prep for customer meetings. We're talking about complicated material science solutions over here, and the prep required with customers is quite intense. They also needed to analyze vast amounts of data and bring that together across multiple systems. And finally, of course, as I said, we have a very complicated set of products. And so we needed a product analysis feature and a system that would help with comparing different products and advocating the right solutions. And across all of this, so this is with one sales team member, now we needed the sales leader to be able to bring all of this information together across multiple sales team members and create a coaching experience so they could focus on individualized coaching communications with each team member during one-on-one conversations. So if you kind of think about this, we were able to absorb all of this into a cohesive, singular experience with a browser plugin, but we were able to leverage Quick to connect with a disparate set of systems across the board to be able to deliver that coherent experience. So from bringing the insights together, from analyzing the effectiveness of plans, from researching for customer meeting preparation, to analyze data as you were kind of having these conversations with customers, and finally bringing that together into a cohesive coaching conversation. It's been a super successful experience for us, and we're absolutely thrilled to continue to expand with the Quick suite. And of course, there is a technical stack behind it, right? But as we've looked at it, Quick has become an integral part of our AI stack. As we start looking at business outcomes, agentic product, and agentic experiences that we want to drive, Quick has now become an integral part of our low-code, no-code experience, right? So as our platform teams think about creating blueprints and trying to democratize that across the company, we're leveraging Quick as a mechanism, a Quick suite as a mechanism to be able to do that. So while the stack, the components, the constants, or the way we think about the stack remains constant, this evolution from Bedrock to now using Quick Suite in our stack, has been a big change and a big accelerator for us. So again, thank you to the AWS team. It's been an absolute thrill. And of course, from a 3M standpoint, it's been great to serve our customers better now with a faster way to deploy AI across these complicated scenarios. Thank you for your time today. And yeah, thanks for making it to the session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I think we're done with the presentation. I'm happy to stick around. I think we have some of the other speakers that can stick around for a few minutes as well if there are any questions. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy reInvent 2025.